time to read our safe harbor statement. And here's our agenda today. We've got a lot of ground to cover, some great topics for you. We'll start out with some of the challenges we hear from you, some of the challenges that you're facing. Then we will also give you a little bit of a frame of reference about Enterprise Manager. And then I'll turn it over to our experts to get into a review of database provisioning. And then they'll do a deep dive on a bunch of functionality there, including integration with Oracle Cloud. We'll wrap up with some customer references, and at the end we do have some dedicated time for your Q&A. So again, use that Q&A chat window, and let's get started. So under database, under data center challenges, we're really talking about you guys, the challenges of a DBA. And we know that creating databases is complex and time consuming. It's gotten worse and better for some reasons, but you have so many environments you're working with, multi-tenant, cloud, all your different iterations and permutations of the database. It's complex and time consuming. We also know these challenges are largely falling in your laps in regards of the demand for resources, rolling out new databases faster and faster. It's your responsibility to get these things up and running typically. And it's hard, especially when you're working in using your own scripts, but also running things manually. You get a lot of permutations out there, a lot of configuration drift, and those types of things create a lot of challenges, which leads to maintenance challenges. When you have a lot of database sprawl in your configurations, it can get very difficult to keep current with your patches, your updates, rolling out to all your different environments. So we heard you, we understand these problems, and hopefully we can talk about a lot of that in this presentation. So just a level set, let me just give a little frame of reference about Enterprise Manager. It is the de facto management platform for monitoring, management, and control of your entire Oracle database fleet and engineered systems. Take a look at the left side of the slide here. You can see the different permutations. Single instance, cloning, multi-tenant, also autonomous database, also cloud at customer, also Exadata, Exadata in the cloud. All of these things are comprehensively managed by Enterprise Manager. And the second bullet on the right, we're going to talk about a lot today, which is looking at that entire fleet and enabling some automation to help with things. And today we'll be focusing in on provisioning, both on premises and in the cloud. And just before I leave this overview, one of the things that we hear a lot from our customers, what they like about Enterprise Manager, it's this notion of integration. A lot of you out there are using the tuning pack, the diagnostics pack. We'll also be talking about some of these Lifecycle pack features. It's all integrated. So once you establish Enterprise Manager in your environment, you can incrementally add all these features, and they're all tied together and integrated into a centralized control console. So it's one of the great advantages of Enterprise Manager. Next slide. So at this point, I want to turn it over to you, Akshay, to get started with database provisioning.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for the introduction. So we are going to have more detailed look into database provisioning landscape of solutions. Tim highlighted 3 sets of problems earlier in the modern data center. The one is related to the homegrown scripts or more of a manual operations that are being done on day-to-day basis in a modern data center. DBAs spend a lot of time automating certain things, catering to the requests which are raised by DevOps people. Now, to address that question, in Enterprise Manager, we added end-to-end automation to address all the provisioning needs. Also, Tim mentioned about the configuration sprawl. So when we are creating databases for different development teams, different line of businesses, the ask for configurations is completely different from each other. Thus, DBAs end up creating multiple copies of configurations in the enterprise. Maybe it is at the configuration parameter level. It can be SGA, PGA memory sizes. It can be the initialization parameters, or it can be of various patch levels. Now, this n number of configurations lead to a lot of maintenance problems. So in Enterprise Manager, we try to address this problem via standardization, which is introduced by gold images and profiles. The third problem that Tim talked about is ever-increasing demand for resources. So whenever there is a new project, the development or QA team or UAT team comes to team of DBAs and says that, guys, I need to develop this new application, or I need to enhance this application, and I need more resources for this particular application. DBAs are always in the dilemma of this ever-increasing demand for the resources, because once the resource is allocated to the team always gets new projects, they then get new enhancements, and the resources never come back to the common pool. So we try to address this problem by having an ease of consolidation of all these databases using multi-tenant architecture model. Now, I'm going to talk through 3 different solutions here under provisioning umbrella. The first one is about the database provisioning, which talks about creation of database. The second one is database cloning, which talks about cloning of the existing database. And the third one is database upgrade, wherein you are going to move your databases to the next version. Let's first understand some of the building blocks which help us address all these 3 problems. The first one is about the gold image based cloning and software deployment via profiles. So usually the DBAs try to configure their databases using some standard practices. The databases are fine-tuned for optimal performance of the application. Those are fine-tuned for their specific memory sizes, initialization parameters, or other configuration parameters at the database level. Now, as a DBA, you would ideally like to replicate the same configuration across all databases, because you know that that's the best configuration that you can get. You can easily do that by creating a gold image with your gold standard of database. So Enterprise Manager can help you create this gold image. If you look at the figure on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, you see the source database system, which is a gold standard. You can easily create a gold image, which is hosted in Enterprise Manager repository. It is saved as a gold image in the repository. At any given point, you can deploy this gold image on any of the other virtual machines or Exadata stack that you have. Thus, you will be always creating a like-to-like copy of your gold standard of database across the data center. And this addresses a core problem of standardization, because all your databases are going to look alike, and then it is going to be very easy for you to maintain. The rapid provisioning makes it easy to automate the entire flow and deployment of the complex software stack like clusterware, database, clients, listeners, grid infrastructure, etc. Deployment procedures are used as a backbone for the orchestration of all this intra-automation. The last point about lockdown profiles helps DBAs standardize even the provisioning at the same time providing the flexibility for end user to configure their own parameters. So for example, if DBA want to set up an Oracle home at a particular location on every VM, let it be say /opd software Oracle 12.2, right? So if they want to standardize this location for all software deployments in data center, they can configure the file system parameter that comes on a wizard, and then they lock that parameter. Once that parameter is locked, other users cannot change that parameter. They can quickly provision the database using all these lock parameters and get the standard deployment. With this, let me first ask the first poll question. Tim, would you be publishing the first poll question about DBLM pack, Database Lifecycle Management pack?
Some answers already.
Great.
Give it a couple more seconds for people to answer. Looks like quite a few people are using DBLM. Good to see. Few are considering it. All right, people are settling in. I'm going to say 5 more seconds and then we'll end the poll. All right, great.
Thank you, Tim. So looks like many people are using DBLM already and some people are exploring it. So the next set of slides is going to be very useful for you because we are going to have more deep dive discussions about all these features. So the deep dive into database provisioning. This is a provisioning solution landscape that we talk from Enterprise Manager. You have a DBLM provisioning, which talks about 3 different solutions. First is about creation of databases. If you already have the Oracle home set down onto your infrastructure, you can quickly create database instances, either a single instance or multiple instances in a go. You can provision the instances or provision databases. That means you can provision the entire stack of databases using clusterware, grid infrastructure, listeners, and other database components. Then finally, setup of data guard, which is used for high availability purposes like failover. We also support all the flavors of databases like multi-tenant, single instance, HA, rack, and grid infrastructure. Finally, when it comes to rack, we have a scale up of the rack and scale down of the rack. Now, while addressing all these things, the basic premise about the automation, standardization, consolidation is embedded into all the wizard and the EMCLIs that we use for provisioning all these deployments. Now, hereafter, we are going to talk about multiple use cases that customers are facing. We came across many customers who use DBLM for various different use cases. So we are going to structure our discussion based on use case, and I am pretty sure that you are going to relate some of your use cases to the list of use cases that we are going to talk today. So the first use case about multi-tenant lifecycle management. Now we have a customer, Comcast. Now they are recently exploring moving to multi-tenant. They have thousands of databases existing in the data center, and now they would like to move all of these to multi-tenant architecture. The first problem that they are seeing is how can they manage the entire estate of these multi-tenant databases. Also, they want to automate the entire provisioning of multi-tenant and then quickly clone these multi-tenants for their functional testing and upgrade testing. They also want to have a faster way to test the upgrade scenarios. So the solution that we recommend them is basically the PDB lifecycle management in Enterprise Manager, which caters to all these requirements from automation standardization perspective. So this is a single screen. On the left-hand side, you see the picture of the provisioning pluggable database flow. And this particular screen caters to all the requirements related to multi-tenant lifecycle management. So whether it is migration of non-container database or creation of new pluggable database, which is important for all the agile development processes. Right? Then you have the functional testing requirements like quick cloning of the PDBs, creating either the full clone or the sparse clone. And then you have the unplug and plug of the PDBs, wherein you can move your container from one to other container. And finally, the drop of the PDBs, which is typical use case to start a new development cycle in the agile model. Now, use case number 2, move to multi-tenant from non-container database. Now, many of these customers are currently exploring multi-tenant. We have another customer nationwide who is currently exploring this solution, wherein they are trying to move from non-container databases to multi-tenant. They have various configurations in their data center, like single instance rack and rack one node. And they have, again, multiple versions of databases in the data center. So the solution that we recommend them is multifold. For some of the databases, they can use the clone non-CDB to PDB using simple DB link option that we support today via AMCLI. For other solutions, you have many other options like clone as PDB. Suppose you want to do the partial data migration, you can go for clone as PDB. If you would like to go for minimum downtime method, which is typically used for production grade migrations, you can go for data pump TTS with RMAN. And if it is cross-platform, cross-version migrations with small data set, and you really need to have it much faster, in that case, you can go for a data pump using TTS. Now, the second poll question here, what % of your data center estate will run multi-tenant?
The poll is underway and we're getting some voting, looking good. And it looks like everybody is using some amount of multi-tenant, 32% at 40%, between 10 and 40%. 33% at over 40%. Let's give it 5 more seconds for your voting. 35% more than 40 using multi-tenant. All right, I'm going to end the poll and let's take a look at the results. 38% with less than 10%. Between 10 and 40, we have 29%, and more than 40% is 33.
Oh, right. Great. So between 10 or more, we have a substantial number of users who are using multi-tenant in their data centers. And believe me, this is a fantastic solution that we have today. And along with the Enterprise Manager, it makes the overall experience very seamless. Because in this case, actually, you don't have to manage databases individually. You can manage many as one. That's the basic premise of multi-tenant, wherein you can manage only one container database from the patching, upgrade perspective, or even maintenance perspective, and that will take care of your hundreds of multi-tenants in a row. With that, let's switch the gears and move on to the standardization of single instance and rack deployments. So we have this customer, again, who want to install and manage multiple single instances and rack databases. They want to, again, automate the complete deployment procedure, standardize the deployments for configuration and compliance for rack, and finally integrate the workflow with ticketing system in data center. Now, this is an important feature because a lot of customers use the different softwares to manage their ticketing systems, or they can integrate with any third-party tool to track the resource usages. So in this case, Enterprise Manager expose APIs or EMCLIs to integrate with third-party systems, and they can directly pull the data from EM, or they can trigger the workflows in EM. Now, the compliance standardization is one of the critical aspects because the compliance can be monitored on an ongoing basis. And if you are really interested into compliance monitoring and management, we had a very deep dive webcast sometime back, and Tim is going to take you through those links, which you can refer offline. To address these customer use cases, we recommend customers to deploy single instance databases using database templates to standardize their database deployments and maintain consistency across the data center. Even DBAs were suggested to give the role-based granular access for provisioning, wherein the DBA can, again, lock some features and give a standard way of provisioning for the non-DBA or DevOps users. Now, when it comes to the standardized single instance and rack deployments, we support all database flavors, including rack, rack1 nodes, and gold images for faster provisioning. Moreover, your provisioning experience, be it either on-premise, Exadata, or OCI data center, is always going to remain the same. So there is no learning required. Now let's go to the quick demo of provisioning a single instance database. And at this point, I would invite Abilash to give us a quick demo for single instance database provisioning. Abilash, over to you.
Thanks, Akshay. Just give me a minute. Hello, everyone. In this demo, we will see how to provision a single instance database using standardized deployment procedure. Let's begin with Enterprise Manager homepage. Click on the Enterprise menu, followed by Provisioning and Patching submenu, and then click on Database Provisioning. This lands us on the Database Provisioning homepage, where we can see many pre-built deployment procedures that comes with Enterprise Manager out of box, catering to various use cases. Select the Provision Oracle Database Deployment procedure and then click on Launch. This begins the workflow to provision the Oracle database. Users can choose an existing provisioning profile, which is a standardized way of deployment when it comes to Oracle database, or we can go about doing a fresh install. Select the OS platform for the database, followed by the database version. Enterprise Manager supports various versions starting from 10G up to Oracle 19C. Here we select 11.0.2.4 as the database version. Users can either deploy grid infrastructure software with the database software, or configure it, or just install the database software and create a database on top of it. This gives a lot of flexibility for the users to select the type of the configuration required. Then we select the destination host where we would want to provision the database. Select the host and click on Select. Click on Next. Next, we go about configuring the host for provisioning the Oracle database. Select the required credentials for the host and then click on Next. Specify the required operating system groups to provision the Oracle database software. Click on Deploy Software Task. Here we select the database software image that resides in the software library. It is recommended to select the database software that is up to date with patches using gold images so as to standardize the provisioning process. Then select the file system location for Oracle base, the database home, and the working directory, and then click on Next. Under Create Database Task, here we select the database template, which is a standardized database configuration from the software library, or the user can select the default template that comes with the database software. Here, let's select General Purpose or Transaction Processing Template and click on Next. Here we provide the database name and the SID, followed by the password for the administrative accounts, and then click on Next. In storage locations, we provide the storage type, which can either be file system or automatic storage management, followed by the database file location and the recovery file location, wherein user can enable the fast recovery area. Click on Next. In initialization parameters, user has option to select the type of memory management required, followed by the percentage of available memory, which determines the size of the SGA and the PGA. Finally, select the database character set from the list of options available, and then click on Next. Here we provide the listener name and the port required for the database and then click on next. Do a final review of all the information that we have given so far. Click on the final task, which is the compliance standards. Selecting the compliance standard is a very important feature which Enterprise Manager provides. As we can see, there are plenty of out-of-the-box compliance standards to choose from to adhere to various security guidelines. Choose one and then click on next. And then we go ahead and schedule the activity as required. It can be either scheduled immediately or at a later point in time. Click on next. Review all the information and submit the procedure. Here we can monitor the progress of the activity of database provisioning. As we can see, the database provisioning is now complete. Let's navigate to the database targets main menu. And we can see the database is successfully created and up and running. This concludes the demo on single instance database provisioning using standardized deployment procedure. Thank you. Over to you, Akshay.
All right. All right. Thank you, Abilash, for a great demo. Now let's resume our use case discussions. So as Abilash mentioned, you can use this provisioning process for provisioning the single instance database or rack databases, rack clustered grid infrastructure, everything. So this is a kind of a unified experience that you are going to see while deploying any flavor of Oracle databases. Now let's move on to the next use case. Simplify disaster recovery using DataGuard. Here we have a customer who wants to set up a DataGuard for Oracle databases, which are TDE enabled. The source configurations is of different versions, and standby database configurations can be either physical standby or logical standby. Moreover, they want to do multiple use cases like switchover, FSFO, or failover. So we suggest them to set up a data guard in a seamless way using the Enterprise Manager standby setup flow. This flow helps users configure even the advanced flows like parsing instance support, and also provides a lot of REST APIs if you want to manage all the switchover and the failover remotely. On the right-hand side, you see a picture wherein all these use cases can be handled on a single screen. This REST API reference is available as part of standard documentation, and which is provided as a link. By the way, these slides will be shared, and Tim is going to discuss more logistics about where you can find these slides, etc. So if you want to refer these REST APIs, you can use the link which is mentioned on the slide. The next use case, virtualized Exadata database provisioning. Many customers have large Exadata deployments, and those can be used in a better way if they want to have a end-to-end management of compute and database. So for the customers who would like to use the compute and database together as a single flow, they can go for virtualized Exadata provisioning on virtualized Exadata. Virtualize plugin in Enterprise Manager discovers and configures Exadata in virtual mode using all the Exadata configurations like DOM0, DOM-U, and storage servers. Next poll about provisioning. So here we just want to check how DBAs provision and clone database in your data center today. Tim, can you switch on the poll, please?
Yes, I will. 1 second here. Okay, the poll is launched. And while people are voting, just remember, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A panel down below. And as Akshay mentioned, I'll share some URLs so you can pick up copies of the presentation. And I'll also see if I can post the demonstrations so that you can revisit those as well. All right, what do we have here? A lot of people are using manual processes for their provisioning. Some are automating with their own scripts. 30% have automated some of their processes. All right, a couple more seconds and we'll end the poll. Get your votes in. And that is going to be it.
Great, thank you.
Here's the results. Most people are doing this manually, 60%. Some are automating pieces of it, 31%. And some are using their own scripts, 7%, and other tools at 10%. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for participating. All right, on to you, Akshay.
Great, thank you. So moving to the next use case, self-service for DevOps. One of the problems that Tim mentioned earlier at the start of our discussion is about DBAs spending a lot of time onto these day-to-day rudimentary requests, wherein they receive a lot of tickets from developers, QA engineers to create new instances of databases. Right? And thus DBAs spend a lot of time just creating these day-to-day tasks instead of having more innovation or improvements into overall DBA processes, administration processes. So with that in mind, we have a customer ask basically, which talks about the self-service portal, wherein the DBA can delegate the creation of database and management of databases to the DevOps users. And the DevOps users in this context means developers, QA engineers, UAT engineers, etc. Right? So all the DevOps users who would like to create their databases can do so using the self-service portal in Enterprise Manager. Now we had this customer request here from, and the customer name is Vodafone. Vodafone basically wanted to automate this process of self-service provisioning. And they wanted to provide ability for DevOps users to create and manage databases through a designed service catalog published by DBAs. So DBA has to finally design how the service catalog looks like, what configurations are supported, what shapes and sizes are created by what LOBs, etc. They also wanted to control resource usage and grant quota for all these DevOps users. So there is no over provisioning by a particular group of users. Also, DBAs in Vodafone wanted to set up policies for accessing service and create new resources. So when they were demarking their resources for a specific LOB, they wanted to give access of those resources to only specific set of users. That way, actually, all users will have an equal distribution of the resources as planned. The solution that we suggested them is to use the Enterprise Manager self-service portal, wherein the DBA would define zones and pools to group all the resources. DBAs are also going to design service catalog to standardize database deployments for a particular group of users, LOBs, etc. Then DBAs will define the quota for user groups. And finally, they will also design access privileges for service catalog and specific features. So today's self-service catalog supports all sorts of databases, including data guard and also the switchover, failover. Then you have non-container databases, you have container databases and multi-tenant support. And you can create PDBs, clone PDBs, finally patch and upgrade. So the upgrade process for the self-service users is extremely simple. With just one button click, the developers or QA engineers can upgrade their multi-tenant databases to the version that has been defined by administrators. Administrators do the offline setup for the upgrade process, but actual maintenance window will be reduced because developers and QA engineers choose the maintenance window just when their application is ready to be upgraded. Now, the next poll, the DevOps and developer users. So,
All right, the poll is up. And we're getting some voting going on. Good. So again, you got your Q&A portal on the bottom. If anybody has any specific questions or comments. Let's see. Most companies are using the ticket process and have the DBA create the database for the developer teams at 83%. Give you a couple more minutes to vote. I mean seconds. 5 more seconds and we will end the poll. All right, the results are in. And what do we have? 84% are using the ticket system where DBAs will stand up the databases for the developer team. 5% of developers are in control of their own systems. And 11% are using automation. So that's great.
great. So for the people who are using the ticketing system, if they want to delegate this responsibility while keeping the control within the DB organization, they can explore the self-service portal because this gives you a lot of flexibility and also gives more responsibility towards developers and QA engineers to create their resources. Now coming to the next topic. So we started with database provisioning. We saw the 3 pillars of database provisioning like database provisioning, cloning, and database upgrade. We had deep dive into database provisioning. So let's now explore database cloning features. Now cloning solution landscape in the provisioning umbrella is pretty large. Again, because of this multi-tenant supports and the single instance full clone support. We, as an enterprise manager, we provide a single pane of glass to manage all your clones and their relationships with their source databases. So now you have the complete inventory management, which can be done via a single portal on this clone management dashboard, right? Wherein you can track how the source database is doing, how the clones are doing, and if you remove the source, what is the impact on source database, etc. So the first use case in the cloning, that is replicate data for reporting purposes. So we have this customer, and I think this is a very common use case. Most likely it is going to relate to many of you as well, that wherein the customer want to create a reporting PDB at the end of the day to generate their financial recon report. So at the end of the day, we have come across many customers who would like to generate either this financial report or daily activity reports, or daily sales reports, etc. And now they cannot run these reports on the production system because it is going to impact the performance of the production system. At the same time, they cannot create the full clone of these production systems because typically the production databases of terabytes in size. So this particular customer in this context had a 10 terabytes of production database, and full clone of 10 terabytes used to take 5 hours for them just to create a copy of the database and then generate a report. Moreover, this particular time to generate a report is flexible. So on one particular day, they would like to generate this report at 6 o'clock in evening or 8 p.m. in evening, 10 p.m. in evening, whatever it may be. So we suggested them the solution to create a refreshable clone PDB from Enterprise Manager. And we are going to see a quick demo of this as well, wherein the user can quickly create a refreshable clone and it will continuously get refreshed at a preset interval or at the manual trigger. So this is highly beneficial for offloading reporting queries from production PDBs to reduce the workload on production database, and all those reports can be generated using clone PDB. Then we have this next use case, which talks about minimum downtime PDB migration using a relocate method. So for the customers who would like to move PDBs from one container database to other container database and still keep their application up and running, they can go for the relocate option. Similarly, we have another customer use case here wherein they want to move the PDB from production to UAT server. And then they wanted to create this PDB in a seamless way. So there are no, without having manual changes, etc. They also wanted to move this PDB from the UAT to other systems while doing the upgrade testing, and the upgrade process should be smooth as well. So those are the requirements. We suggested them to use the Relocate PDB feature from Enterprise Manager. Now, while relocating, Enterprise Manager provides two options. You can either relocate with a maximum availability or maximum performance mode. In maximum availability, your connections will be kept as long as possible. And in the maximum performance mode, your optimal performance levels will be achieved during the migration. The use case number 9, full clone of PDB for dev and UAT testing. So we saw about a refreshable clone, relocate, but if a customer really want to create a full clone because they would like to do the functional testing of certain use cases, in that case, they would really like to create the full clone of the PDB because all of the changes are going to be impacting the performance of the PDB. So in this use case, the customer wanted to create a copy of production PDB in the same container database, and which is used for QA purposes. And they also wanted to create a copy of that particular PDB into another container database for UAT purposes. There, the requirement is also to create multiple clones at the same time to cater to different development teams and QA teams. So we suggested them to go ahead with full clone of the PDB that can be used to fulfill this requirement. The full clone of non-container databases. So here, this is a pretty traditional use case wherein you have a lot of non-container database used for the development and QA purposes, wherein you would like to create multiple copies of this non-container database across dev organizations. And then you can always create the full clone of single instance rack and rack per node. Many customers also ask to create a restore from the older backups, and Enterprise Manager also keeps track of all these backups, and then you can also go to the point in time to restore from some previous point. Now let's see some quick demo of a refreshable clone of multi-tenant. And by the way, this particular feature about refreshable clone is also available onto the cloud, the OCI. So you have now the ability to create a refreshable clone on-premise as well as on OCI with the same user experience. So for the demo, let's hear Abilash. Abilash, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Akshay.
All right, again, I will try and upload these demos so you can review them separately after this.
Hello everyone. In this demo, we will see how to easily create a refreshable clone PDB, followed by how to refresh the data from the source PDB. Let's begin with our Oracle Enterprise Manager homepage. Click on the targets menu and then on databases. Here we can see the list of databases being monitored in this Enterprise Manager. As you can see, the databases being monitored is running on-premise infrastructure as well as in an OCI VMDB system. For this demo, we will create refreshable clone PDBs between two VMDB systems. Click on Cloud DB OCI and then on OCI Sales PDB. Navigate to Oracle Database menu and then click on Cloning followed by Create Full Clone. This lands us on Create Full Clone Pluggable Database workflow. We begin with providing the sysdb credentials for the source database, followed by the destination pluggable database name, which would be the name for the refreshable clone and the display name. Select the Create Refreshable Clone checkbox. And let's select the container database, which would be the destination CDB, where the refreshable clone would be created. Let's select the sysdb credentials for the target. followed by the database host credentials. As you are already aware, all the OCI DB systems are encrypted by default using transparent data encryption. So we input the wallet password here. Let's select an existing database link, which is a prerequisite for refreshable clone PDBs. Here we can see a database link that is already present in the database. Let's go ahead and test the connectivity between the source and the destination PDB. The connection is successful. Now let's go ahead and click on clone. Here we can monitor the progress of the refreshable clone creation. In about 2 minutes time, we have a refreshable clone successfully created. Let's navigate to the targets menu, and we can see the new PDB created under a different container database. Let's now navigate to the source PDB to refresh the clone with the latest data. Navigate to the Oracle database menu and then click on clone management. Here we can see the clone being listed as refreshable clone. Let's select the PDB and click on refresh. Select the sysdba credentials for the target database and click on refresh. Here we can monitor the progress of the refresh activity as well. Now the refresh activity is successfully complete. This concludes the demo on how to create a refreshable clone PDB between two OCI VMDB systems.
Akshay, over to you.
Thank you, Abilash. Thank you for the demo. And then as Abilash mentioned, you can always create this refreshable clone if you would like to have a continuous update of your clone multi-tenant. So instead of data guard, which is set up at the container database level, you can have this refreshable clone architecture at the multi-tenant level. Now let's look at the third pillar of our provisioning solutions, which is about database upgrade. Database upgrade is a very interesting use case because there you can have a single instance upgrade or the fleet upgrade. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details about database upgrade here because we had already done a deep dive webcast about a database upgrade, which is addressed via fleet maintenance, wherein you can upgrade your entire fleet of databases across data center in a single go. But to give you a quick overview, this has two modes wherein you have a single instance upgrade, single container database with multiple multi-tenant databases. You can manage all multi-tenant as a single DB. So you can upgrade container database and all multi-tenants will be automatically upgraded. It supports multi-tenant, single instance, HA, single instance HA, rack, and rack 1 databases. Again, the fleet maintenance, you will find these links at the end of this presentation. So you can go through the deep dive webcast on fleet maintenance. With that, let's move to the last topic of our discussion, which talks about the new features we have introduced into release updates, 13.4 release updates about integration with Oracle Cloud. Now today, Enterprise Manager caters to on-premise data centers as well as the OCI data centers. The first use case that we're going to deal here is with database cloud service, which is running on VM or VM. Usually, database cloud service which runs on VM and VM has a container database as part of the DB system. The first step to have a lifecycle management of multi-tenant on this container database is to discover and monitor this DBCS in Enterprise Manager. Now, Enterprise Manager agent can be installed onto this DBCS VM. And once the discovery is complete, you would be able to see the cloud database and its associated PDBs in Enterprise Manager. The picture on the right-hand side shows you one such CDB along with its PDBs. Once you have discovered the PDB lifecycle management features are equally applicable on these OCI databases as well. So you can create a new PDB, clone a PDB, unplug, plug, and drop PDB, and all via this single screen. So again, when it comes to unified experience, you can do all these operations onto either on-premise container database or on OCI using single user experience. So there is no learning required again. Now, we also extended our self-service capabilities to cover the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure use case. So to provide more unified experience for developers and QA engineers, DBAs now can design the service catalog in such a way that those instances can be created, the DevOps instances can be created either on-premise or on cloud without letting end user know that where that particular instance is residing. And we are going to see a quick demo on this as well. But all the features which are existing for on-premise self-service are equally applicable on OCI as well. For example, it provides the simple automated provisioning and the unified provisioning experience, wherein the PDB provisioning inputs and the data which is required for on-premise PDB and cloud PDB is exactly same. So even developers need not learn any kind of a new limbo for the cloud world. Then you have a quota management for users. The user level quota management supplements the OCS compartment level quota management and provides a powerful mechanism for DBAs to control the resource usage or to optimize this resource usage. Finally, all the control of these resources is maintained with DBAs. So they have the centralized control for the self-service model, and then they can design the best possible service catalog which is suited for their organization. The picture on the right hand side is showing you one such service catalog wherein one entry which talks about the finance PDB on-premise creates a PDB for on-premise environment, and the other highlighted entry creates a PDB on cloud. So let's see a quick demo of this unified self-service experience for on-premise and OCI data center. Abilash, do you want to take us through the demo?
Yeah, sure, Akshay. Hello, everyone. In this demo, we will see how a self-service user can quickly provision a pluggable database in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure DB system, as well as in an on-premise infrastructure. Let's begin with Enterprise Manager login page and log in as SSA user, followed by the password, and click on Login. This lands us on the homepage of the self-service portal, where we can see few pluggable databases are already up and running. Now let's take a look at the service catalog by clicking on the Create Instance button. Here we can see some service offerings in the form of service templates that is already available for the self-service user to consume. The first service template points to provisioning a PDB in an on-premise infrastructure for the finance business unit, and the second template points to provisioning a PDB in OCI DB system for the sales business unit. Let's provision a PDB in OCI DB system by selecting this template. In this workflow page, we provide the PDB name, the database service name. Next, the self-service user selects the size of the PDB from a set of predefined configurations, which is earlier defined by the administrator while setting up the cloud. Next, we input the administrator password for the PDB admin user and the table space name as per convention. Finally, the user gets to set the instance duration either to provision the PDB immediately or later, and also the time period up to when the PDB is required for use. click on Submit to provision the PDB. User can also navigate to the Request tab to monitor the progress of the PDB creation. While the PDB is being provisioned, let's take a look at the options available for the self-service user in the already existing PDB. Here, the user can connect to the PDB using the connection string provided here and also monitor the resource usage on the memory and storage by comparing the expected workload with the actual workload. Click on the Load and Capacity tab to monitor the activity graph and also the SQL monitoring. In the High Availability tab, the user can schedule the backup and restore at a later point in time. And one of the most important features that is available for the self-service users is to scale up and scale down the size of the PDB depending on the resource requirement, which can be done by clicking on Resize button. Now we are back to the home page where we can see the PDB that we requested a few minutes back is successfully created and up and running. This concludes the demo on hybrid pluggable database as a service. Thank you.
Thank you, Abilash. So now coming to the last section of our presentation about customer references, we talked about multiple customers nationwide, Vodafone, etc. But then Comcast is very interesting customers. That is why we wanted to highlight here, because they brought in their provisioning window from weeks to just few minutes. So they had this provisioning requirement of 2 to 3 months for freed up their databases, and then they were able to provision now databases using just few minutes, in just few minutes. So if you have any questions, you can, the lines are open now. You can either put it into the Q&A window, or you can directly ask online. Tim, do you want to take us through the remaining logistics?
Yeah, that sounds great. I am impressed. Thank you, Akshay and Abilash. I can't believe you got through all those slides and demonstrations. Nicely done. For those of you in the audience, this is your time to ask your questions. Many of you are doing so in the Q&A portal down at the bottom of your screen. Keep putting in your questions and we'll answer them live and through the chat. Let's see, I think my first questions, does Enterprise Manager support ASMFD configurations for databases? Akshay, do you want to take that one? And first, what is an ASMFD?
So, yeah, ASMFD is the new configuration that has been introduced in Oracle Database 12.2 onwards, wherein now you can have ASM file system based configurations, which can be done while provisioning a new database. And we recently added support for that. In fact, the current release update for Enterprise Manager includes the support for ASM FD based provisioning and cloning.
Great. Next question. Can a self-service user do data guard switchover?
Absolutely. This is one of the important use cases for self-service users. And this is a very simple experience from self-service portal, wherein they have to just click the button to switch over from primary to standby. But in the absence of safe service, usually this comes out to be a multi-step process, wherein you have to manually do the switchover, then you have to generate the broker notifications, etc. So the self-service unites all these, combines all these manual steps, and then gives a seamless experience for self-service users.
Okay, cool. All right, one more question, and I like this one because we do have a slide on this that hopefully I can switch to. Is there any workshop available for these features?
Yeah, absolutely. We have this workshop available on OCR Marketplace. We can provide more details towards the end of this presentation. We have a slide here.
Yeah, okay, great. So before, I want to go into some of these extra resources we have for you. Again, you can download all these slides from the blog page shown here, blogs.oracle.com/OEM, Oracle Enterprise Manager. And then this webcast series can be found on the corporate events page shown there as well. Akshay, can you hit the next slide?
Oh yeah, sure.
Akshay mentioned a number of customers. We do have a lot of momentum with our community. We're very proud of the success that a number of our customers had with awards. We're also highlighted in the G2 Leader Award board. Let's go to the next slide. We're moving faster too. So Enterprise Manager 13.4 just came out. You can take a look at a lot of new features there. We're also delivering release updates on a monthly cadence now, and you can see the schedule there since April. Next slide. And I did mention we have a mobile app, I think, and also you can get access through Grafana with our new plugin. Next slide. So speaking about those workshops, and 13.4, it is available on the Oracle Cloud Marketplace. It's a great place to get a look at the latest release of EM very simply, very quickly. We have a lot of different shapes, HA configurations as well, and that continually gets upgraded. And next slide. Here's a few more links. The third one down there is this EM workshop that we talked about. It is on the OCI Marketplace. If you're interested, this is a great opportunity to connect with your sales rep, and we can either facilitate you through those workshops, or you can do self-serve on those as well. There's documentation and pre-set up environments so you can actually get a look at these tools. All right, it looks like we have, we just finished our last question. Thank you all for staying with us, and really appreciate your attendance and all your participation. Thank you to our presenters, Abilash and Akshay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, team.